Hello and welcome to the In Publishing podcast. My name is James Evelegh and I'm the editor of In Publishing. My guest this time is Marie Davies, Managing Director of Immediate Media's Homes and Lifestyle division, which includes their successful craft portfolio. Marie spent 8 years in subs marketing earlier in her career, and she tells us what she learned from that experience.
But the insight I gained and continue to learn is that great content, a customer-centric approach underpins the success of our business.
She also tells us why the craft sector has seen such growth during the pandemic.
Our research has revealed that 97% of the respondents have said that they used craft to improve their mental health, which is way above, the next one is music, 56%, and exercise of 46%. So I think craft has given people over the pandemic a state of calm. It's given them somewhere to create some mindfulness space for themselves, to switch off from, the news feeds around us.
And where she sees the main opportunity for publishers in the consumer media sector.
I think it's understanding, interpreting, and then using data. We are so data rich right now. We have so much information about our customers at all different levels. I think we need to understand how to use that better, interpret it in a way that can deliver better value for our readers, our users, through experiences, through product offerings, and being smart with what data we actually need to use and gather.
Amongst many other things. But first, a quick word about our valued sponsors. We would like to thank our podcast sponsor, Advantage CS, a leading global provider of subscription and membership management software. Capabilities include marketing, sales, payments, and customer relationship software for publishers, membership associations, and information providers. For more information, go to advantagecs.com. Marie Davies is the Managing Director of Immediate Media's Homes and Lifestyle division and is responsible for their craft portfolio of titles, which has seen a large increase in subscriptions since the start of the pandemic, particularly among 25 to 35-year-olds. Immediate's crafts brands include titles such as Love Crochet, The Knitter, and Molly Makes. Marie Davies, welcome to the In Publishing podcast.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Now, I believe you started your publishing career at Future, and you're now Managing Director of the Homes and Lifestyle division, as I just said, down in Bristol for Immediate Media. Can you give us an overview of your publishing journey so far and the key moments along the way?
Yeah, sure. I did. I joined Future in around 2001. I was responsible for, I think it's about 20 plus computer and tech magazines. I can certainly say I learnt my craft there. It was where I really fell in love with customer behaviour and how marketing and clever communications in line with great content could really impact sort of delivery and growth, and you could do something really special with that. I then carried on and I sort of joined BBC Magazines in Bristol when the BBC moved some of their brands out of London down to what was Origin Publishing back then, about 2004 maybe, where I was responsible for devising and developing sort of robust acquisition and retention strategies. And over the period of time that I was within our subscriptions team, our files grew year on year, and we have, very profitable and robust subscriptions within all of our brands within Bristol. I guess for me, I've always had sort of a bit of a desire to understand more, to find more information out, understand more about the products, why customers buy them, why do people engage with so many of our brands within specialist interest publishing. And that's sort of how I moved into a more publishing role after I took my PPA publishing diploma. And I sort of landed my first job as an assistant publisher within Immediate Media, working on Homes and Antiques magazine, Gardens Illustrated, of which I'm still working on both of those brands now, and care very passionately about all of the brands that we have in our Bristol business.
Now, you spent 8 years as head of subscriptions at Immediate Media. How did that experience equip you for your current role?
Subscriptions and reoccurring revenues is absolutely key to our success, and it's the bedrock of our business. So it's not just, the 8 years of head of subs, it's been my entire career is sort of a library of knowledge, I guess, that I draw upon every day. our business is really fast paced, it's changing, it's sometimes really challenging, and the landscape that we operate in is forever looking different. But the insight I gained and continue to learn is that, great content, a customer centric approach underpins the success of our business. And I guess my time as head of subscriptions really gave me the insight of the operations and what motivates and makes our customers engage with us.
So in terms of a training for, a role such as yours at the moment, would you say the subscriptions and marketing route is a particularly positive one, as opposed to, for instance, people who come through editorial or the commercial side?
Absolutely. And I think, in our current world where subscriptions are king, we are seeing immense growth across many of our brands, and it's a great place to engage. You're a central touch point with editorial. You need to understand the product values and the position. You need to understand where those readers are at, what else are they looking at, where are they engaging, and how can you engage with them. You have to talk to your advertisers, you have to talk to your ad colleagues, and so it's a central role that actually opens up a whole new experience and gives you opportunities to touch base with so many of your colleagues across the publishing community. So for me, I think it's a great place to start and develop a career such as mine.
So since you left that role, although it sounds like subs continues to play a huge part in your day-to-day job at the moment, how is the subscriptions role, if you like, the subscriptions department and what they do and how they do it, how has that changed since you were involved in it on a day-to-day basis?
Oh, it's changed significantly. I mean, my colleagues in the teams that we have are forever having to be innovative. There's, so much more in terms of PPC activity. There's a whole load more social activity that they are doing through social campaigns. They have loads more insight to what I had. Sometimes it was a bit of gut instinct and let's just go with this and see, what comes back. We had more traditional marketing channels that we still use today, but we're more reliant on a wider mix of marketing channels than when I was doing it. So it's changed and it will continue to change, I'm sure, but they do a fantastic job of keeping up to date with new innovations, new techniques, and applying that within our business.
Now, the craft portfolio is what we're mainly focusing on today. So could you just give us an overview of what your craft portfolio consists of?
Absolutely. Crafts multifaceted. There are lots of different crafts out there, traditional crafts, new and emerging crafts. And so our portfolio consists of 9 regular print brands, more traditional print brands, which include brands like the World of Cross Stitching, which is in its 24th year. So a huge legacy brand and has huge amounts of loyalty, to our newest launch, which is Love Embroidery, which actually launched just before the pandemic in March 2020. So nerve-wracking time, but we launched it at the right time.
Was that good or bad timing, as it turned out?
As it turned out, it was great timing. We've got record level subscriptions for a new launch, so it was actually absolutely good timing. But obviously, in those first few weeks, we were sort of holding on to our seats a bit about putting out a new launch at that time. And then more recently as well, we've launched gathered.how, which is our multi-craft website that launched December 2019. So again, sort of on the cusp of the pandemic. And a really interesting opportunity for us.
So what's the thinking behind gathered.how? Because that's obviously an online-only property and it seems to pull in your print titles into that website. What's the strategy behind that?
Gathered.how is very much the go-to website for the 112 million global craft audience. It's an integral part of the immediate craft portfolio, bringing together the new to the experienced crafter, where they get to sample content, they get to buy from our partners, they can enjoy events. It's an approach where we can bring together sort of more holistically our print brands into the digital space. And obviously there's, a new emerging, as you said at the beginning, younger audience, the millennials that are out there that have taken up craft during the pandemic. And so we offer the most comprehensive user experience within the market.
So gathered.how was a fairly recent launch. Before that, did each of the print brands have their own website?
Yes, they did. They were a mixture of, full functioning websites to microsites. So we took the strategic decision to merge all of those websites into one super brand, gathered.how, so that it gave customers the chance, or audiences the chance to find find one place, a one-stop shop, I suppose, for their crafting needs, rather than having to go to a different discipline. And we know that lots of our crafters are multi-crafters. They span, they might not just be interested in cross-stitching, they will also enjoy embroidery, or they'll be into sewing. So this is an opportunity where we can truly join up this space for users and create a great experience for them.
And if you were to describe your publishing strategy for your, the brands you've already mentioned, what, broadly speaking, is the strategy behind them?
It's always about growing engagement through growing our communities. Like I've said before, reoccurring revenues are tremendously important to us. So subscriptions investment is essential to our strategy. Pre-pandemic, we had a more sizable revenue mix with export and licensing as well. That was a sizable part of our business. Lockdown has made that more challenging, but we hope as the world reopens, we're expecting to see some green shoots returning, which will enable us to get our products back out there globally. We want to be able to reach more audiences through all of our platforms and be, platform agnostic, really. We know that there's new, emerging, younger audiences within this space. And so our publishing strategy is very much, how do we engage and bring those people into our community?
And what are the key strands of that? Is that primarily through social or through newsletters or what?
Social newsletters, and we're about to move to a weekly newsletter strategy. Video content is key. Obviously, we're all seeing more and more video content in every touch point, through social, through websites. It's everywhere. So video how-tos, how can we bring to life our content in a more accessible way for as many people as we can? So we know that we've got a core loyal print readership, but they also span into our digital spaces as well. They are engaging through our various social media channels, whether that's Facebook or Instagram. And then, they're enjoying seeing our YouTube channel, which we're putting a lot of effort into for Gathered, which is including our video content.
Now, you mentioned newsletter strategy changing to a weekly output. So what's the thinking behind that, and what are the kind of key changes there?
We don't just want to collect data from customers to sign up to a newsletter. We want to be able to give them value. What is it that we're giving people in return for their data? And it's not that we just want people's data for a newsletter sign up. We want to be able to deliver them something every week that is meaningful, that gives them value, has content that they can link back through to the Gathered website, explore more, give them inspiration and tips. And also, how do we make those newsletters commercially viable as well? So if we are front of people's mind because we're able to be in touch with them, we can create personal journeys for our users. We're going to increase our engagement, and by increasing our engagement, that will drive many of the other commercial opportunities across our platforms.
And will those newsletters actually generate revenue on their own, or is it all about directing your audience to other places, for instance, to buy a magazine or to go and see a video or the like?
They'll be multifunctional, and the content strategy around them will be, how do we give value to our customers? If that value is there, they will engage with us more. If that engagement is there, they are likely to purchase a product for us, whether that's an affiliate product because we've inspired somebody to create a project, and then we can give them the means to go and buy the crafting materials that they may need. Obviously, affiliates are an important part for many publishers, including ourselves. And we know that by driving engagement and visitors to the Gathered site, we can increase our subscriptions to our print brands, to our digital brands. So it's not just a one step approach. It's how do we create more engagement, and by doing that, we will increase our revenues elsewhere.
And looking at your crafting portfolio and how it's evolved and developed over the last few years, what have been the key moments of development?
It's always when we spot an emerging market or where there's a gap that we know we can fulfill for both the reader and an industry. We've had so many great examples over the years where we've been able to do that. For example, Love Patchwork and Quilting back in 2013. That feels like a long time ago, but we really identified that it was a mature market, but we came at it with a different twist. We put a modern, fresh approach into the UK market, which we hadn't been done before, with a cover gift and a fresher looking, younger proposition. And we quickly became number one in that space. And then from that, we were able to offer spin-off brands like Today's Quilter, which were cater for a more traditional, experienced end of that crafting sector. So it's always about, our key moments are always when we innovate, we spot new opportunities, we work with our industry, we work with our advertising clients, and we know that there's a need that we can fulfill for readers. Obviously, launching Gathered back in December 2019 was a pivotal moment. We took that decision to merge many of our craft brands into one, and it was a really interesting time and continues to be an interesting time. We saw great growth through 2020, and it's we need to be able to build on that and deepen that relationship with all of our visitors over the coming years.
Now, it's a competitive market, the crafting market. I'm just wondering, how do you go about differentiating your titles from other titles in the sector?
Well, we visually, our magazines are, I think, pretty contemporary in parts. They really sing to our audiences. We do a lot of market research into what our readers would want, what our advertisers would want. And so we deliver what we believe and what our research tells us are the very best quality craft content. We have experts in their field. We innovate all of the time. We show through licensed products that we have the best content, and it is a competitive space, and that's what makes it really interesting. Without competitors, it means that we're not always on maybe our A game. So with competitors there, it's a great space for us to operate, and we are continually looking at insight and research to guide us and to inform our content strategies. And our products, we're looking at how we become more sustainable, what we can offer that's different to our competitors through our gift choices, through our packages, more value for our readers.
Okay. And you touched on revenue streams earlier. Could we just go into a bit more detail on that? What are your principal revenue streams? Obviously, they might have been affected slightly by COVID, but what are they, and where do you see the most opportunity for growth, going forward?
Our principal revenue streams are subscriptions, as I've said before. Our subscription space is really, really strong. We've seen big increases over the last 12 months in particular. We've seen our file size grow by 45% in the last 12 months, and we've seen acquisitions fly around 75%. So new people coming in and trying our magazines, which is great. So subscriptions are our sort of number one. We have strong advertising, sales, newsstand, export, that entire mix, very traditional publishing mix. You pull those levers, but subscriptions is our main revenue. Emerging revenues for us are absolutely through affiliates and partnerships, where we can create products and allow our customers to be able to buy those products as seamlessly as possible, is an emerging revenue opportunity for us. So I think that's an exciting place for us to be, because we've got a really solid base in terms of our reoccurring revenues, and now we're looking at how we can expand that and grow our customers' worth. I think they're not just a customer with just one subscription. They're a customer that can engage with us through events, virtual, going to live events, as well as we can be the place they can come to also facilitate them buying their craft needs.
And in achieving your goals, what are the kind of challenges you faced?
As sad as it makes me feel, when UK newsstand is always a challenge, and I'm pretty sure I'm not alone in saying that. But we have great partners, and our listings remain really strong. So in many of our brands, we're market leaders in this space. So it's a challenge, but we never give up. We see it as an opportunity. We're always striving to make the most from that opportunity. sustainability is a challenge, but also a huge opportunity, and one that I'm really proud that we're making great strides forward by, actively changing our packaging to paper wrapping wherever we can, sourcing more sustainable gifts, using more sustainable products. And we know that by making these changes, it really helps the retailers. It helps, the environment. That's an essential part of why we're doing this, and we can make positive changes. So a challenge because we're having to rethink our production processes. We're having to rethink about how we buy our gifts, at what time leads, how we create packages that consumers really want in a more sustainable, environmentally friendly way.
Now, it sounds like you've had huge subs growth over the last year. The figures you mentioned were fantastic. Is that, to what extent is that down to COVID, and will the end of the pandemic make it harder to sell subs?
I think the pandemic is absolutely, I don't think any of us can deny the fact that the pandemic has enabled us as a business particularly to grow our subscriptions. But, that doesn't come on its own. That comes from also having brilliant products, brilliant content, great marketing, and the people and the talent behind that. And so we have seen great success across our business. And, as I said before, we've seen 45% increase just on our craft business alone. We are seeing it slow down a little in the last, few weeks, month, but it's a slight slowdown. The world, our audiences are much more used to subscriptions models. It's everywhere we go, isn't it? It's through Netflix or Amazon Prime or whatever it might be. So I think subscriptions as a concept is less alien than it ever has been. So I don't see subscriptions as absolutely slowing down to a point that, we may have been in 2018 or 2019. I see it as an absolute growth strategy and strand for us in particular.
And how would you say the crafting market has evolved? Obviously, COVID has kind of maybe accelerated things. I mean, how have your consumers changed, or their behaviour, or their expectations?
Mm-hmm. I think crafts played a significant part in supporting people with their mental health. We've recently conducted some market research called Craft Intelligence, which we worked with Kantar on. And we know that 9 out of 10 crafters have said that crafting has helped them relieve their stress. We've seen emerging markets with the sort of millennials, as you referred to earlier, the 25 to 34-year-olds. 8 out of 10 of those have said they've crafted during the pandemic. That's about 1 million increase versus 2019, who've collectively spent, 1.6 billion pounds on craft. So this is a huge new emerging market for us, and we need to work really, really hard as an industry to keep that loyalty, to keep that engagement. I think, our research has revealed that 97% of the respondents have said that they used craft to improve their mental health, which is way above, the next one is music, 56%, and exercise of 46%. So I think craft has given people over the pandemic a state of calm. It's given them somewhere to create some mindfulness space for themselves, to switch off from, the news feeds around us. So I think it's been an integral and really, really important lifeline to lots of people. And I'm really proud that the products that we create, the websites that we have, has been able to help people in that way.
And what do you think? This is obviously a huge new audience which has, come to your titles. What do you think the key to keeping them over the next few years will be?
I think video. Video is going to be key to that for that new millennial group that we've identified through our research. We are seeing increases in our digital editions as an overall business and within craft. We've seen tremendous traffic growth on Gathered, triple digit growth in certain areas. And we need to become a platform agnostic business so that we can engage with our users, our readers, whether it's through the website, through social media, through our video content, in a way that is appealing and engaging for younger audiences. We need to broaden out our offering. And I think that's going to be a tremendous opportunity. And I'm really excited that we get to have that opportunity within this craft space. And I'm really, I think our teams and our business is set up to be able to deliver that.
The crafting industry obviously focuses very much on traditional skills. To what extent has digitization affected the crafting market, both how you deliver and how your audience expects to receive content and the like?
I think that digitization is a great opportunity for us. I think we are, by purely by bringing together the best multi-crafting website shows that we are taking this space really seriously, and so we are able to offer and also react. Not all crafts are going to be a print brand or a big digital launch or whatever it might be. We can offer in Gathered a space for maybe some of those smaller emerging crafts that people are now trying. And digital editions, as I've said before, is really important. Digitalization of content through video, through being able to give people more accessible ways of accessing our content. There's lots of questions. Do we have paywalls? How do we deliver that content, but also make it commercially viable? We know our readers are used to paying for patterns, for paying for materials. So I think our next challenge and great opportunity will be, how do we create that environment that means that we can digitize more of our content, but also make it a commercially viable opportunity for us.
And do you see, you mentioned paywalls there, do you see paywalls as playing a part on gathered.how in the future?
I think we need to test it. We need to test and learn, and we need to understand what value we need to be able to give our users to create that potential. So I guess I can't give you an absolute honest answer with pure clarity right now, but I think it's something that we will investigate, we will test, we will learn, we will devise a strategy that makes sense based on our knowledge at that time.
And you mentioned digital editions just then. When people subscribe to your titles, do they tend to lean heavily towards print or digital editions, or what's the kind of, which are more popular?
We are still more print. We have still more print subscribers than we do our digital subscribers, but that's not to say that the digital editions are not growing. They are. They're a big growth for us, and we're definitely experiencing more people coming to our brands through digital editions as well. So there are more in terms of volume, but digital editions is definitely growing with us.
And in terms of your digital editions, are they, how would you describe them? Are they an exact replica of the print magazine, or are the bells and whistles added?
At the moment, they're largely a direct replica as our magazines, but again, that's an opportunity. I think that's an opportunity for many publishers. How do we create more engagement? How do we, from a digital edition, make the switch from, you can see this great project, now go and watch the video on it, go and buy the products, engage with the authority that is in that area. So I think there's a huge opportunity where we can deepen our relationships and deepen our content for our audiences.
Now, you've mentioned community a few times. How do you go about creating brand loyalty and building a sense of community for your titles?
I think in a specialist business, a specialist brands, readers have a sense of ownership. And it's amazing, what we see in the virtual mailbag, but also, they still do write into us, which is lovely. They talk about the brand like it's their friend. It's the friend that they know and they trust, and that has its authority. So specialist brands, I think, create their own community and create their own brand loyalty, which is why we have to be really careful when we want to do anything, radical, like a relaunch or a redesign, because the audiences in this space love and know their product and it belongs to them. I think there's opportunities where we need to create more personalized content, more personalized journeys for people, curated content, and reward loyalty. We do an amazing job as an industry and within our business of acquiring people to our brands. How do we give that loyalty? What do we do back for that support?
And how do you interact with? I mean, obviously they write in, they email in, they talk to you. How do you where do you interact with them? Is it through social media or literally through responding to correspondence?
Social media is huge for us, and so we reply as much as we absolutely can through any of our social media posts. We help people if they're asking a question about a particular project that they might find tricky. We try to reply to as many of those messages as we absolutely can. People contact us directly. They think the editor, and they absolutely are right to think this, that they're their friend, and so we have a lot of incoming through our emails, and our editorial teams are brilliant at being able to reply and engage. And we obviously get a lot from that. We get a lot of insight into who our readers are, which only helps inform our future content strategies and our decision making. So we engage with as many of our readers as we possibly can. We go to events when we're allowed to. Let's hope we can do that again really soon, because it's important that we understand who the reader is, what they enjoy, what do they do beyond their craft, so that we continue to create the best possible products for them.
And what are the most, for you, the most successful or the most productive social media channels?
I think each social media channel has its own benefit. So we use as many of those as we possibly can, and depending on brand, will depend on how successful that is in terms of driving engagement or increasing awareness. On some of my homes portfolio, I know that Instagram will work harder for us in terms of driving engagement than, say, Facebook will. On other brands, we have huge Facebook communities where we've set up our own, it may be like a country file walking community. And so they're quite engaging on there, and they generate their own user content. So it really depends by brand as to where people are engaging with us more. But ultimately, we would like people to engage with us through our websites, to be able to spend longer with us on our sites, which then go on to giving better value with our advertising partners, and then through hopefully they'll go on to subscribe to print magazines or digital magazines.
So what would you say to or what advice would you give to other publishers in terms of do's and don'ts of building a successful community?
I would research where your communities are at. What do they? Where are they engaging, and how do they engage? What's the tone of voice that they are using? And I would go with that. I think you can't do enough test and learning. So taking every step and asking yourself, what were the deliverables on that? Did we achieve what we set out to do? Or are you wasting effort? Are you wasting your energy on a route to market that doesn't really want to engage in you in that way? So a sort of common sense approach, I think. It's, not all social media, not all channels are right for all brands. Newsletters might not be right for your brand, so maybe don't put so much effort into that. I know that newsletters for many of our brands are really important. People want to see them. They expect to see them in their inbox every week. So that's a strategy that we pursue.
So typically, how would you measure the success of, let's say, a Facebook strategy or an Instagram strategy?
I would measure the success. I mean, it depends on what we're trying to achieve. Are we trying to get eyeballs onto the site? In which case, you have that as one of your core KPIs. Are we measuring success in terms of uplift in subscriptions volumes, of which we will set ourselves a cost per order? Have we achieved that? So it really depends on what type of what you're using that channel to deliver. We've used social media for newsletter growth. We've used it for driving engagement to our virtual events, particularly over the pandemic. And I mean, cost is obviously one area, but it's engagement. Have people shared our content? How many likes or have we received? All of those metrics are key to working out. And I don't think you can really look at one particular metric and say, that is my measure of success. You need to look at it across the board and work out, what did you set out to achieve, and have you achieved that?
So it sounds like for each of your channels, you have a very clearly defined set of objectives and KPIs.
Absolutely. Yeah. And everyone is really clear on what they would be. And at any one time, we have multiple campaigns going on. in all areas of the business, whether that's our central brand marketing team or whether that's our subscriptions team or whether it's the digital editorial side that are trying to engage through their more editorialized posts. And so everyone knows and is really clear about what makes a good what's a good successful campaign in any of those forms.
So I suppose a key do would be probably just that: make sure you have a strategy and a set of objectives. I suppose
have a strategy, a set of objectives, and keep reviewing it. Because it differs by brand. So you can have some, there's lots of industry benchmarks out there. So you can set yourself, some general we'd like to achieve, and here's some industry benchmarks. But once you start doing it, and the more you do, and the more you learn, and the more you test, you will find your own criteria for success.
So what's in the pipeline going forward for obviously a lot of change over the last year, a lot of growth in your subs file. What's coming next for your craft portfolio over the next year or so?
It's pretty packed. It's a pretty packed pipeline, ever flowing. But affiliates are a key opportunity for us. How can we create that seamless user experience from project to actually buying? That's going to be vital. And data, we need to think about data. It's not data, it's customers. What do we do to deepen our relationships with our customers? That's a pivotal moment for us, and something that we're working really hard. We want to create fans. We want to be able to deepen our communities, and so that's quite an important segment in our next stage of our journey.
Now you mentioned affiliates there and creating a seamless journey. What are the for publishers, including yourself, setting up affiliate relationships? What are the kind of pain points, or what are the typical challenges which publishers face in setting these things up?
I think that's a really interesting question, and I may not have all of the answers. I'm sure I don't. But from our experience so far, it's about learning to write in a way that appeals to the audiences that you're serving. So identifying what are people already looking for and how can you fulfill that need. I think working in places where you've got independent retailers, that's a bit challenging. How do you get those independent retailers? If you're a real specialist magazine, you may not always want to push people to the obvious places. But there will be some independent retailers, and how do you create that link so that you can deliver to the reader, the user, the opportunity to go beyond the core retailers, I suppose. And it's a different way of thinking. You're approaching content in a different way, and that's a bit of a mind shift that we're all adapting to, and some people are able to do that more than others. So we're writing commercial content, and I guess that's a different skill set. Maybe it's a different mindset that we need to have.
And are the terms of, obviously, there's always a big question of labelling correctly and integrity and all the rest.
Absolutely.
Are those issues? How do you address those issues?
So integrity is key. You can't have authority, and you can't keep delivering reviews to customers if you can't stand behind them and substantiate them. So we are really clear about if we're talking about books or we're talking about products, this is a recommendation, that they're not necessarily all being reviewed. So it's a sample of whatever industry you're in, showcasing and being really clear with your labeling that this is what you're working with partners, that this is part of an affiliate scheme, so that customers are really aware of what space they're in within your brands.
So presumably it's important with affiliate deals to obviously turn some away, I guess, if they don't fit your criteria.
Absolutely. And I think every publisher, every business model will have their own set of criteria and where they want to how they want to work and engage with partners.
Now looking at the wider consumer magazine sector, where do you see the main opportunities and threats for the sector as a whole? Not just the crafting area, but all consumer magazines.
I think it's understanding, interpreting, and then using data. We are so data rich right now. We have so much information about our customers at all different levels. I think we need to understand how to use that better, interpret it in a way that can deliver better value for our readers, our users, through experiences, through product offerings, and being smart with what data we actually need to use and gather, because it can offer us so many opportunities, but also do we need it all? I guess is where I'm coming from. And
in your experience, sorry to interrupt. In your experience, do some publishers, is there a tendency to collect too much data?
I don't know whether it's too much or whether it's just you can collect so much. So for me, it's what do we actually need to collect to enable us to insightfully work out what our products can deliver back for those people. How can we add value for the data that we hold? That we're not just collecting data without giving value back. And what does that look like? I think that's a really good opportunity for all of our business, for the publishing industry, to say, how do we give value back for the data that we hold about our customers?
And in terms of threats, what are the threats on the horizon?
I think it's always going to be newsstand pressures. I think newsstand pressures, the advertising mix changing. How do we ensure that consumers continue to consume great content but are really willing to pay for it? What does that mean? What does that look like? That's always a threat that we've had for a really long time. How do we continue to get our products through export, and the challenges that looks like, particularly as we've been in lockdown for so long. So it's about our delivering of our content, I think, through our more traditional channels is probably our greatest threat right now.
And are you excited about the future?
Absolutely. I love publishing. I love content. I think our entire business is a really exciting place to be. And I just, there's always something new to learn. I don't think there's ever a week that goes by where we're not faced with some new opportunity, a new innovation somewhere. Somebody else is doing something a bit different to you. Let's have a look at that, see how we can, use their experiences and do something, similar or push it on a bit further. So it's a really exciting space for us, and something I'm really excited, to be part of this industry. It's a great place to be.
And finally, Marie, a question we ask all our guests: outside of work, how do you relax?
I'm not sure I ever do relax, really. I have a pretty busy life.
Surely.
I've got a busy family, and they're really important to me. But, we try to take every opportunity we can to create memories and adventures and stuff with them. My friends are really grounding. They're my safe place to be. And I guess I love dancing and reading. So I probably read to relax and dance to get out of the day job.
All right. So what books have you read? Anything you can recommend over the last 12 months, which has, been a particularly good read?
Oh, I read all sorts of books, but I guess, to really switch off, my favourite book at the moment was Where the Cruel Dads Sing. That was a really, really good book. It was quite poetic and beautifully written, in my opinion, and took me to a different place. So that was a nice place to escape to.
Excellent. And presumably dancing is something you haven't been able to do a great deal of over the last year.
Not a tremendous amount, but it's come back now, so I'm delighted to be back in the studio.
Excellent. Marie Davies, thank you very much for being our guest on the In Publishing podcast.
Thank you for having me, James.
We would like to thank Advantage CS again for sponsoring this podcast. Advantage CS has been developing subscription management solutions for the information industry since 1979. The comprehensive functionality, adaptability, and scalability of its software helps leading publishers around the world manage their businesses more effectively. Find out more at advantagecs.com. Many thanks to Marie for being our guest this time. One of the key takeaways for me was that social media activity needs clear objectives and KPIs. Obvious when you come to think about it, I suppose. If you'd like to find out more about Immediate's craft portfolio, then a good place to start is at their website, gathered.how. We're taking a short break from podcasting over August, but we'll be back with another podcast on the 1st of September. If you'd like to catch up on previous podcasts, then please visit the podcast page on our website, inpublishing.co.uk. If you'd like to get in touch with us, then our email address is editorial@inpublishing.co.uk. Thank you for listening, and do join me in September for our next podcast. Bye for now.